If there's one story emerging from the National Capital Region today, it is that of a 3-year-old and what happened to her when she was at a daycare center. Her parents are alleging negligence and have filed a police case with the Gurgaon police station saying that she was there at the daycare, they were left there. However, at a certain point, her hand got hurt and her thumb had to be amputated. The story has had tremendous response. First it was on Facebook, now it has become a major news story as the Gurgaon police are looking for those people who are running the daycare centers. But the larger question really is that a lot of working parents are asking is that when we leave our children at daycare centers, are they safe and who's looking out for them? We'll be talking about that in just a bit. First, let's just take a look at this 3-year-old story.
Little Myra may seem to be brave in the face of her ordeal, but she will always have a reminder. Her mother Shivani cannot get over the betrayal of those who were supposed to care for her 3-year-old daughter, a daycare in Gurgaon.
लॉ के ऊपर आ गया ना, हम अपनी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश कर सकते हैं. मेरा मानना सिर्फ ये है कि हम पढ़े लिखे जॉब करने वाले लोग हैं. अगर हम ऐसे लोगों के लिए एक्शन नहीं लेंगे तो सड़क पे हजारों मजदूर बैठे हुए हैं जो गरीब लोग पढ़े लिखे नहीं हैं और किसी के भी साथ हो सकता है. उनकी तो फिर कभी सुनवाई नहीं होगी.
On the 28th of April, she received a call from a teacher informing her that her daughter had had a minor accident. Her thumb had got caught in a door. When she reached the hospital, she found her daughter's thumb had been amputated. Shivani Sharma wrote on her Facebook wall, "Can you believe the situation when my 3-year-old is in front of my eyes bleeding? The resident plastic surgeon told me that nothing can be done to the broken thumb, but only surgery to close the cut, which means for her whole life she will never have a full thumb nor any nail. Instead, she will have a round cut finger." The daycare center is locked, its owners untraceable. The police have registered a case of negligence.
Investigations are going on currently.
Okay. Sir, a lot of these play schools, a lot of these creches are now mushrooming all over Gurgaon. While we were coming to your office, we saw several on the way. Is there any kind of regulation, any kind of guidelines that you're aware of under which they should be operating?
Actually, more details can be given in this regard to you by the Education Department.
All over Gurgaon, daycare centers are mushrooming, but this incident has left several parents worried.
Back in 2013, the Women and Child Development Department came up with an early childhood care policy which made mandatory the accreditation and registration of such centers. However, failure of implementation of these guidelines just might turn these daycare centers into dangerous centers. With camera person Pooja Arya in Gurgaon, I'm Sonal Mehrotra for NDTV.
Just to make a couple of things clear before we go ahead is that the allegations are ones just that the parents have leveled right now. We don't really know what happened that time. Her thumb got stuck, but we don't really know what happened. What we do know is what the police is saying, that the authorities have locked up the daycare center and are on the run and they're looking for them. What we also know is that those rules which guide all these daycare centers, they're not really clear right now. So let's just get some clarity on that, because when NDTV reported this story, the first kind of reaction that we got from parents all over who were watching that story was, what is my child safe? And so we wanted to get some clarity on that. So let me just introduce our panel here. We have Bidisha Pillai from Save the Children, who will tell us about the rights that children have and which laws actually apply to them. Sudeshna Sengupta of Mobile Creche. And we also have Vigyata Raikwad, who's the CEO of Munchkins, a play school in Mumbai, to tell us about what kind of laws, what kind of rules they apply to make sure that the children are safe in their places. So, Mr. Raikwad, if I can just start with you, and we're also hoping to have the NCPCRI member to tell us how the government views all these things. So, Mr. Raikwad, if I can start with you, when you heard an instance like this, a lot of parents saying this is their worst nightmare, that children aren't really looked after really well. What do you do to make sure, and what kind of safeguards do you have in place to make sure such incidents don't occur?
See, first and foremost, I believe that every center should be child-proof. When you're looking at a child's hand being crushed in the door and it had to be amputated, that shows that the door must have been a wooden door. Second, it was not probably, shaped in a way that if a child pushes it with an intensity, you can't stop two children pushing each other, as what the parents said, or the daycare passed the remark saying that some child pushed the door and, it so happened. That's a very negligent reply. You must have, like, if in case I have to give my own example, we have backlight partitions in our school, which is very, very light. There are door stoppers everywhere. So even if a child pushes, it doesn't harm. It's a slight bump or a, slight cut. It is not something so bad wherein you need to ampute the hand or, the child suffers throughout her or his life. Second, there should be regulations. Unfortunately, people who are running their daycares are not trained themselves. Basic education is missing. Anyone who can speak basic English or is good looking starts a daycare, and we just put our children there, which is so wrong. Like, walls should be baby proofed, floors should be baby proofed, doors should be baby proofed.
Ma'am, I understand you're being very responsible about this. Can you tell me, is there someone from the government or from the state who comes to regularly
Absolutely,
check
there should be
whether you
guidelines.
have all these
See,
safeguards
first and
in
foremost,
place?
I believe people
No,
should
I
be
know,
educated before they start. Today, there are home-run daycares, there are home-run creches and play schools.
What I'm asking
which is so incorrect.
Is there someone from the government who comes and checks all the time? Is there someone coming and checking your premises?
No, there is nobody who comes and
making
checks.
sure-
There is nothing, there is no regulation, no.
Okay. So that's the point, perhaps.
That is
we
what
want
hurts.
to-
Now today we
want
are
to say.
educated, so we are doing it. Yes, we are educated, we are doing, but there are so many people who are uneducated running these centers, and they are not doing a good job. And unfortunately, children are suffering. In fact, I also believe there should be a parent awareness created that when you look out for a daycare center, please look out for these things. I would just want to draw a light on this thing. There are so many daycares which are cooking inside their premises, having LPG. Are we waiting for a fire breakout? Tomorrow we are going to cry if we lose our children. Please
Ms. Raikwa,
stop doing all of this.
That's really worrying.
Yes,
Okay, I want
don't
to,
even
Ms.
think
Raikwa,
about it.
there are other people
They
from
use it as a USP that
there are other people from daycares
Sure.
as well. Let me get their opinion. When you hear her, has anyone come and checked? So she's in Mumbai. Has anyone come and checked your
So I think it depends on brand to brand. So we have regular audits and even surprise checks
By
every
who?
month by Mapleware Corporate. So every month we have 8 or 7 audits.
But that's a self-regulation, not
from the government, from the Mapleware head office. So we have surprise checks, like suppose in a week they come without telling us sometimes. So we have that kind of fear and we feel that heat that yes, we should be working on the proper guidelines and
Okay.
all. So I think this should be done with all, I think.
but nothing from the government.
Nothing from the government.
So
branch
as
that is
Sonal
not
was
the
reporting
government,
and
no?
speaking. That's right. And as my colleague Sonal was reporting over there, and she was interviewing the police officer, and he said, well, he didn't know of any such guidelines which they could check to. So that's where I want to ask you, Ms. Sengupta, that as someone, and Mobile Creche kind of looks after the people who are working as daily wage laborers as well, and what their children up to. But if you look at the state government's policies or the central government's policies, is there anything which provides a uniform code about how these play schools or how these nurseries should be run?
But the ECC policy, which has come up in 2012, was supposed to be coming with the guidelines, the quality norms, which is not being made public. I mean, it is still with the government.
It's a work in progress for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
2012, the policy has been made public. The policy has been approved, but the quality norms and the guidelines, the curriculum has not come in as yet. So, I mean, we are actually keeping all children under 6 unregulated, and the care, which is a public good, is actually not looked at as an important factor. We address safety, we address accidents, but we do not...
Individual accidents and instances when these happen.
Yeah. So why are we actually discussing today? It is because there has been an unfortunate incident.
Okay.
So do we look at it as a violation of right, or do we look at it as an unfortunate incident?
Okay, so Mr. Tikku, who is of the Child Rights Commission, which is perhaps the only kind of government body which looks at, what happens to children and their rights. So you must have heard the details of this, and it is quite shocking to hear from these daycare and play schools saying that there is no government body looking at them, there is nobody checking them, there's no license, nothing, it's totally unregulated. Isn't this of some concern to you, sir?
Well, let me first clarify that
Yes.
Has been taken up time and again. The policy guidelines were put in place in 2012 sometime, but still the rules to be followed have not been put in place. There's absolutely nobody as on date, including we had said that time that the DOE should immediately take up this issue and go on on the inspection sprees and then have that in league with the child welfare committees, because these are all the early childhood care issues. This does not cover under the RTE Act 2009 as such, although in the NCP said we had issued a set of guidelines for corporal punishment, which would probably take care of this, but had it.
So that means all children under 6, which RTE, Right to Education, comes up for children older than 6, all children under 6 that way have no safety net. And is that why, are there a lot of instances like this? I mean, this has happened in NCR, in the Millennium City. That's why it's, coming to highlight. Everyone across the country is looking at it. Are there lots of such cases?
I just have one suggestion if I can.
That's one of the points that these...
There have been number of
cases. Please go ahead.
There are several such incidents which happen, and I think these instances are on the rise. However, I think what's also happening is that we don't have enough data. As Ms. Sengupta rightly said, that we are only responding to incidents when they happen. We are not kind of first putting in place the entire sort of piece of making sure that the guidelines that are existing are implemented properly, that they're uniformly implemented across government and private institutions, because there are so many private institutions that are mushrooming. So at one level we are talking about institutions where
How many are we talking about?
We don't know. We don't know. So there, it's a large number of institutions. Perhaps even the government doesn't know how many exact institutions are there. So forget the fact that how many of them are applying the guidelines and following the guidelines. Very often it's left to private players who have their own standards, guidelines,
who want their own brand.
Who want their own brand, or organizations like Save the Children, where we consider child safeguarding to be extremely critical. Child protection is a right, and then we work with governments in different states to work with their schools or the institutions to kind of make sure that the guidelines are being implemented properly. But as of now, it's piecemeal and it's sporadic.
So, Mr. Tikku, you were saying lots of such cases have happened. In fact, and there are so many of these institutes. Some of them. Yeah, Ms. Raikwar, what did you want to say?
What I basically wanted to say, till the time the government doesn't start regulating the daycares or the preschools, at least some guidelines should also be introduced to parents, that when they are going to zero down a particular daycare, please look out for these basic safety, which is there in the center or no. Is your child safe there or no? Today we are discussing this issue, but the child has already suffered. The parent has lost their child's thumb. You can't get that back. At least to avoid all of this in future, any parent who is not much known, who is the first time a mother, should know what exactly they should look at into a daycare.
Okay, so we have a couple over here which looks at, you do audits yourself. So when you do audits, what are some of the glaring lapses that you find?
For any preschool, if you just enter any preschool, you have to see that they are child-proof or not, right? From the door blockers to the finger guards, the mats, the corner guards. Even we have done, so we have done around 10 safety audit schools. Everyone has a flame cooking. You should have an induction. So they should have. None of them have a fire extinguisher. None of the schools have fire extinguisher.
How many schools have you seen?
We did 10.
We did 10
in Gurgaon.
Okay.
And none of them had fire extinguisher. None of them have a stopper. None of them have a maid or a IR trained for CPR. They don't know what's the nearest hospital they should go in.
Exactly.
I'll give you
and where did you take all these findings?
So we have these findings with us because we are collecting data.
You couldn't take it to the police, or you couldn't take it. So Mr. Tikku, you're hearing these people. They are independent consultants who have done an audit, and they're taking it to various schools. So what is happening? I know you said that last week also you had a meeting, but shouldn't this be a bit more urgent from the government's part?
Well, I think the public also has to take a call on this and maybe pressurize the government, state governments as well, because most of the time now we have had almost all the states have a commission now. The State Commission for Protection of Child Rights has to necessarily take a call on this and issue immediately guidelines for the ECC. All these mushrooming preschool institutions will have to be regulatory regulated. The last 4 years have been saying that we need regulation.
Okay, lots of people want to say, and we just want to tell parents, we don't want to alarm them about the fact that there are no fire extinguishers, there's cooking being done, all kinds of hazardous things being done in play schools. We'll take a short break just to tell parents what to look out for when they're thinking of sending their children to daycare, because they have to. I mean, you can't quit your job and sit at home. So we just want to tell parents what to look out for. So stay with us.